Hi, welcome to my May wrap up part 2 video. Again, like last time, I've got 7 books to tell you about, and they are a mix of physical, ebook and audio. And the first book I want to tell you about is one that you will probably have heard of already. I mean, literally the hype on this book, it was just everywhere at the time. And that is The Push by Audrey. This sounded really good, but in a vague kind of way, so I didn't actually know what the book was about or what to expect. It's a thriller, but it's very psychological. So we follow Blythe, whose mum was like a crap mum, basically. And Blythe is concerned that she's also going to be a crap mum, but she doesn't want to be. And when her daughter is born, she starts having difficulties with their relationship, as in with the mother-daughter bond. And even whilst the daughter is growing up, Blythe is just really concerned about the way the daughter behaves and the relationship they have. Her husband, Fox, he just dismisses everything. And you're never quite sure what's actually going on for real in the book when you're reading it. It does give you that kind of vague is it her mental health or is it real kind of feeling. And then she has another child and everything's great with him, and then it all just goes horribly wrong. I can't tell you much more because this is just one of those books you've just got to read, because the whole book is spoilery. So you can't say much about it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think it's definitely worth a lot of the hype. I ended up giving it 4-star. It really is one of those books where I didn't want to put it down, and it was dragging me back. There was just something that didn't quite hit the mark for 5 stars. Then I read The Loop by Jeremy Robert Johnson. This was described as Stranger Things crossed with Where Was He? And I was just like, gimme this book. It sounds amazing. And the cover looks quite like Stranger Things, creepy sci-fi type thing. And yeah, so basically there is this kind of a town out in not a busy area. It's quite a remote area. And all of a sudden there's an epidemic of teenagers going completely crazy and violent. And I mean really gruesome, violent, killing people, very aggressive. And it's kind of left to a small group of teenagers to try and figure out what's going on and save the whole town. And it's also somehow linked to this local biotech company. It's such a great concept. I really did enjoy it. I liked the characters. There was quite a bit of gore in it, which was good for me because, I'm a bit sick. And I did like the whole teenagers saving the world type stuff. Again, this was 4 stars. There was just something, and I don't know what it is, something that didn't quite make it 5 stars, but it's really, really interesting. Trigger warnings for violence, gruesomeness. I think there's possibly suicide. I can't quite remember now. But yeah, just be careful going into this book. There is quite a lot going on in it. But if you're not bothered by these things, I would definitely recommend it, because it was such a, I want to say fun, but then I sound ridiculous saying that violence and gore and stuff and murder is fun. But It is. I'm just giving up. I'm not even going to justify that. It is. It was a really, really good book. I listened to the audiobook of We Have Always Been Here, a queer Muslim memoir by Samira Habib. This is, it literally tells you in the title what it is. It's about a young Muslim girl who is queer and her trying to come out to a family and navigate life, basically, and the conflict it has with her culture and the expectations of her. It was really, really interesting, because obviously that's something that I would never experience. It was horrible at times, where somebody just has so many struggles in just wanting to be themselves. It's just not easy for them to just live their life how they want it. Just something, it wasn't just wasn't as impactful as I was hoping. I was hoping it'd be like really getting your emotions going and like, you know, rah rah rah, and it just wasn't. It was very like under the radar kind of I want to say subtle kind of vibes. I don't know. I mean, it also discusses things like arranged marriage, which is one of the conflicts, and like racism, poverty, things like that. So there's a range of topics in this book, quite hard hitting, and for some reason it just did not, like, the punch just didn't land quite right, is how I'm going to explain it. It just wasn't as boom boom as I wanted it to be. I don't know. Oh God, if anyone ever does reviews like this. Now then, Anna by Sammy H.K. Smith. This is dystopian. It's set in the near future, which is something I love, because you can like, oh, I could almost see that happening. And basically something's happened where society is just completely broken down, and people are like left to rebuild and restructure the kind of like survivor groups as they need to or as they wish. It's all gone horribly wrong because women are possessions in a lot of these communities. They're literally just owned by men to be, you know, slaves, sex slaves, wives, mothers, cleaners, whatever you want to call them. They're just owned, and they're treated really badly as well. So Anna is one of these women. She is owned by a man called Will, and he keeps her he finds her. She's just wandering around in the forest trying to find other survivors and trying to live, and he finds her, kidnaps her or abducts or whatever, and he then keeps her chained up, and she is his possession. I've got to say, really, really big trigger warnings for domestic violence, for mental and emotional abuse, and for sexual assault and rape. Massive. These are huge topics throughout the whole of the book. So please do not read this if that is something that bothers you. It's not slight. I can't tell you this enough. It's massive in this book. And that for me is what hit me really hard. That women were just treated so badly, and that the main character Anna, she is really, really like, she's very strong. Initially she's quite defiant, then she realises she's gonna have to like give in to him and just bide her time waiting to escape. And it's just so good, and it follows Anna over a number of years and the situation with Will and how that develops and changes, and you know, meeting other survivors, things like that. It was just so good. And I know some people, when I've read reviews later, have said the second part of the book, like years later, is very, I don't know how to explain it, like very mild and very like quite vanilla and domestic compared to the first part of the book. But it then kind of changes again and you go back to darker times. I felt that even during the times when things seemed okay, the whole book had like this really dark undercurrent in it. And even when things seemed good, I felt on edge for the characters, thinking, but anything could happen at any time to go wrong, and it does. But yeah, fantastic. This book is written so well. It just gets every emotion going. And yeah, 5 stars. Then we've got Sleeping with a Psychopath by Carolyn Woods. This is non-fiction. This is Carolyn's like kind of biographical account or memoir, whatever you want to call it, of her meeting somebody and having a relationship with somebody and later finding out that there was a psychopath. And this book, oh my God, this woman, I was listening to it and all these things happen. Like, he literally just bullshits his way through life. Like, he convinces her that he's a spy for MI5, that he's like this secret agent. He goes around the world and he's like a millionaire and he owns property and he's trying to, you know, lend me some money and I'll give it you back once I've done this deal and this deal. And what, you know, I was just like listening to this going, give over. Give over. There's no way you would believe that. It's just so frustrating. So frustrating, this book. And that's because Carolyn is like, I think she's in her 40s when she meets him. And she's an intelligent woman. She's got a career. She's got money behind her. She's got experience in life. She doesn't come across as somebody vulnerable or gullible. Yes, she believes every word that comes out of his mouth. And like, as somebody not in it, like standing back listening to it, it's just, oh my, it's like, how on earth did you believe any of this? Like, it's so obviously fake. How did you believe any of it? Why would you keep believing him and buying a house so-called with him, but it's your money? And oh my God, it was just so annoying, this book. Carolyn does come across as not the most likeable of people anyway. She's a bit of a snob, and, you know, and it just, yeah, it just was not great. I gave it 3 stars, and I think that's because I don't know. I don't want to judge the book on the fact that the woman is so bloody gullible. It's not that. It's just hard. It was really hard to rate this book. I still haven't written the review for it for NetGalley and the publishers, because it's so hard to explain that it was interesting to listen to, but so frigging frustrating that it even happened in the first place. I don't know. Anyway, 3 stars. And then sticking with non-fiction, I read The Governor by Vanessa Frake. This is like a career memoir of somebody who was initially a prison officer and managed to work her way up the ranks to become the governor in some of Britain's like most notorious prisons. She even did time. She did not do time like a prisoner. She had time in her career working at Wormwood Scrubs and Holloway. If you know anything about prisons, they are really notorious. She even met serial killer Rose West at one point, and it was just fascinating. This book was everything that I hoped it would be. It was like a really interesting insight into prison life, not only for the prisoners but for prison officers. There was interesting cases or events that have happened, incidents, whatever you want to call them. She's dealt with riots. She's dealt with people who were trying to sneak drugs or whatever into prison. She's dealt with having to like manage problem periods where there was drugs within the prison, and she's trying to figure out how they've got there and who's got them, etc. It was just fascinating, and it's told like really, I don't know how to say, like informally, in like a really relaxed format, you know, like just dead easy to read, easy language. The pace is really good. There's lots of like anecdotes and stories giving examples of things she had to deal with. It was just really, really well done. And it was one of those books that I just couldn't put down. Like, it was like, oh, what's going to happen next? You know, what's the next crazy story she's going to tell us about? I loved it and ended up giving this 5 stars. And the last book I'm going to tell you about today is Screams from the Void by Anne Tibbetts. This is sci-fi. It's definitely adult, not YA, and it's quite gruesome, which was amazing. I wasn't sure about going into this book, and for the first 50 pages ish, I was still not quite gripped. It was like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying it, but I'm not loving it. And then I don't know why, it's like I just kind of settled into the story, got to know the characters. So basically, this crew, it's a very small crew. They are on a spaceship for a couple of years, and their entire job or mission, whatever you want to call it, is to go and collect plant samples from other planets that can be taken back to Earth and like analysed, and can humans live there, etc. So they're right towards the end of their mission. They've only got a couple of weeks left of this 2 years. And some kind of foreign biological thing gets on board the ship. And it just causes havoc. Like, people are being killed and eaten, and there's blood and guts everywhere. And then there's also like a side story of a really, really difficult relationship between the main character Reyna and her ex-partner. Now, all the characters were fantastic. They were all written really well, and the ones that were meant to hate, I also liked them as well. But I liked them in that I'm supposed to hate them, and I really did. They were just written really well. I loved the characters. There was like, if anyone watches Criminal Minds, there's a character in there that just reminds me of Penelope Garcia. You know, like that quite kind of unique, quirky, geeky tech type person. It was just really, really good. The action was just, once it started, it was just boom, 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 boom. And that just made me fly through the rest of it. It was just amazing. And I really, really did not want this book to end. Now, I seem to have read a lot of very dark books in May, because this is another book that I am giving trigger warnings for. There's trigger warnings for domestic violence, abusive relationship, and rape. I think that is it in that one. Not that that's not good enough, but you know. So again, be careful with this book. That's not expected from the synopsis and the plot. You don't expect these things to be in there, but they are. So, you know, heads up. And yeah, 5 stars, obviously, because it was just incredible. I am desperately looking for something else like that now, because like gruesome horror in space was just amazing. It was far better than I thought it would have gone. So yeah, so that's all the books that I read in May. Thank you very much for watching these videos, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon in my next video. Bye.